was out on a gig the other night, and I'm using all electronic equipment, and I have a Yamaha KP 65. I bought it when they first came out, so it's pretty old. It started to mistrigger and not track very well. Luckily, it was at the end of the night when it happened. Um, Figured I'd try and take it apart and see if there's anything in it that I could fix. You can purchase these on Amazon for like 64.12. I was also looking at the Roland KD9, which is 199.99 on Amazon. If I can fix this, because it always worked great, never had a problem with it. If I can fix it, great. If not, then I'll buy another one, or maybe I'll upgrade to the Roland, because I'm using the TD30 and upgraded all the pads and cymbals and stuff. So let's try and get it apart here. I think the first thing I noticed is just pulling this rubber plate off. If you grab it and take it from the bottom first, and just slip this over, and there's the covers off. It's pretty easy. I noticed the foam here is pretty dented in. In fact, it's pretty squished against the back plate. I might try and find something that I can stick in here so it's not hitting the plate. On the back side of this, there's a cover plate. And, just grab it under these. There's two little lips here. You can grab it. Looks like. Just pull it over the 1/4 inch input jacks and the level setting knob. Pull this off, and that's that. So what I'm noticing right now is that the sensor actually came unglued. So there's, you can look at it there. Okay, well, that looks like it's easily fixed. So what I bought is some Gorilla epoxy. I guess you can see that. I'm going to use that, and I also bought another, like an industrial high-strength epoxy. And then I'll try that also, see if that works. Might be better. Okay. So what I'm going to do is clean up the surfaces. You can see in there how it came out. They're using a double stick tape. I'm just going to take some memory cloth and scuff up the surface. I'm going to take a little alcohol and clean any debris off the surface of the sensor and the backing plate. Get any finger grease off. Blow the dust out. I'm going to scratch the backing plate inside the housing, get some of the glue off, and scuff it up so the epoxy will adhere to it. I'm just going to clean it off with some alcohol. And that should do it. I have the end of a pen, the casing of a pen I'm going to use to spread the epoxy around. I'm just cleaning it off with some alcohol. And just equal amounts of epoxy. I have a old glass plate that I'm using to mix it on. I didn't cut the tips on that back far enough so the cap won't fill on. I have to go cut the tips back a little bit. I'm just covering the backing plate with epoxy. And then I'm going to cover the back of the sensor. Just trying to center the sensor in the backing plate. This epoxy has a 5-minute set time. So it's only workable for 5 minutes before it starts to cure. I'm just going to fill in the edges around the back of the sensor. Just trying to fill in all the gaps. and just use some alcohol and clean up the residue on the surface that you're working the epoxy on. It just cleans up real easy with alcohol. That plates from uh, my sandblasting helmets, one of the old visor plates. So I'm just going to let this set for a while and come back. Okay, that's set up pretty good. It's looking pretty good. It's been a few hours. Just wanted to make sure that it was set. Even though they said it's only like 25 minutes tops for it to be really set good. So I'm going to try and fill this Devitt in with a piece of foam that I had because its beater's actually hitting the plate in there that the sensors are mounted on. So I'm going to try and give it something to cushion it so it doesn't hit directly on that plate. That's probably what knocked the sensor loose in the first place. So I just used this hot glue gun and stick this piece on there. It should work fine. So yeah, that epoxy set up really, really good. So I'm going to put the back cover plate on. It just slips over the 1/4 inch jack inputs and then just pops on. Sorry for the camera angle. Yeah, that glue gun works pretty good for foam rubber. So then just slip the front rubber plate on or cover. Again, sorry for the camera angle. You just start that, work it on from the top to the bottom. There you go. You can see a little better. And just center it a little bit. There's just little lips in there that the rubber piece fits into. Then flip that bottom piece over and just you'll see there's little cutouts where you have to adjust it so it fits around all right. You have to play with it a little bit to work it into the grooves. And with that extra piece of foam that I stuck in there, it's making it a little rougher to get it in. But there it is. That's how you do it. Next thing to do is I'll just clean up and then I'll set it back up and I'll test it out and see how it works. See if it works. If it's not going to work, and there it is. The epoxy I used was this Profix multi-purpose epoxy. It sets up pretty quick, like 15 minutes if it's a 64-degree room. They use this stuff to reattach the heads on golf clubs. It'll take impacts 120 miles an hour of a golf club and not come apart. So this stuff should work pretty good in on this sensor.